So hello, Deirdre. Thank you
Hello.
for tuning in today and agreeing to come on to chat. But before we get started, I would love you to introduce yourself, who you are and where you're from.
Yeah, okay. So hello, Katie, and hello, everyone that's listening. My name is Deirdre Hines. I am originally from Moat in County Westmeath, so Midlands girl, and probably spent the most part of my adult life living in Dublin. And with lockdown and baby and new business, returned to the Midlands with my tail between my legs in October of lockdown, so October 2020. And I have been working in various areas, but largely concentrated around the area of PR, marketing, branding. I specialised in consumer psychology. I went back and got a master's in that a couple of years ago. And in 2017, I had an idea to create a snack bar design for evening time for a variety of reasons, which I'm sure we'll go into later. In 2018, I formally incorporated the company and we launched to the market in February of this year. So the brand, it's Unwind, the evening snack bar. And yeah, so I'm the company owner and founder of Unwind.
Wow, I thought it was so interesting. And for anyone that's listening or has been at my workshops or retreats, Deirdre kindly gifted us a couple of her bars. So it was the malted chocolate, the roasted nut, and the chocolate and orange. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So they were really, really well received. Absolutely delicious. But I just thought it was such a different idea. Like I love snacks, but there was definitely nothing out there that was specifically for evening time. Because like that dark chocolate is my thing. I love dark chocolate. But to have those calming ingredients is just amazing. So where did the idea come from?
Yeah, well, it's probably a little bit of opportunism, a little bit of personal experience, and interest, and maybe a little bit of, I don't know, my own creative impulse coalescing. My background personally is that I have struggled with sleep issues my whole life. When I was 17, I was diagnosed a chronic insomniac by our family GP.
Wow.
Yeah, so it had always been a big issue. Like I can't ever remember it not being, something. And so that kind of like kicked off maybe, like 10 to 15 years spent like obsessing over like ways to get better sleep quantity and quality. And, some of the things I ended up doing were like maybe less wholesome or less healthy than I'd possibly care to remember or to recall. But it was always like a big sort of a shadow hanging over me a bit, this sort of like not being able to sleep and really struggling with that. And probably about maybe, I want to say about 5 years ago, I sort of reached a bit of a personal epiphany, like nothing dramatic happened or anything like that, but it was kind of like maybe marrying together of different components that I had maybe previously at times introduced into my life. So they sort of consisted of, I suppose I'd divide them into three, and it would be kind of like diet, that's one pillar. Maybe the second one would be things like yoga, meditation, mindfulness, and then the third would be sleep hygiene. And I'd probably add to the second one, I had been to sleep specialists. I had done CBTI, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia specifically. So it was kind of like pulling together all of these elements, and I suppose living the reality of making minor adjustments and minor tweaks, but all of them maybe coming together to have an actual impact on my sleep. So it was never like, oh, well, if you do yoga every day, you'll have a great sleep. Or if you cut out your electronic devices at this time, you'll have a great sleep. Or if you only drink chamomile tea and cut out all caffeine, you'll have a great sleep. It was kind of like, well, what if you just do a little, where you can make little adjustments and little tweaks here and there. And I noticed the impact of incorporating yoga and meditation and CBTI into my day-to-day routine, along with making improvements in my sleep environment and, sort of the external sort of lessening maybe the external impact, like, for example, lighting and electronic devices and whatever else. And And then like, you know, my diet being part of that was overall a very helpful thing for me. And I suppose like, you know, when you think about insomnia, and for anyone who suffers with any sort of sleep issue, there's a lot of negativity surrounding it. You know, it's, I remember one morning at like 4 a.m. just typing into Google, like, you know, like tips for insomnia or whatever. And it's all like, you're going to die of a stroke, or you're going to get Alzheimer's, or all these terrible things. I'm like, okay, but like, that's not helpful to someone who can't sleep. You know, that's really, really unhelpful. All of this negative talk and negative narrative, like everybody who can sleep, we want to sleep. It's not that we're resisting it. You know, we want to do all of the things that will help us sleep. So I suppose it was a little bit of that insight, knowing that like all of the negativity that surrounds it, and wanting to do something that maybe had a more positive impact for people, that kind of like spoke to people in a really gentle, kind, helpful, maybe slightly irreverent at times way, to tell them like, okay, you know, if you're not sleeping, there are things you can do to help yourself. So it was a little bit of personal background, creative impulse, because I like doing things, I like making things, and as you said yourself, recognizing that opportunity existed. You know, as a night owl myself, like I tend to snack in the evening, and like I know some people say you shouldn't snack, but like I do, and like a lot of people are the same as me, you know. And I just thought like it would be nice if there was something that existed that maybe, you know, was a slightly better for you style option of some of the things that exist out there already. And that would make me feel better about like having a little bit with like my cup of chamomile tea or your decaf tea or whatever it is you're having. So it was, all of those things combined at the right time in my life to, you know, get me started on this project. So that's sort of the long-winded answer.
Wow, that's amazing, because I always say out of like trauma, disease, or some major life challenge or struggle comes a silver lining, comes that epiphany, comes that kind of opportunity, because you've walked the path and it's like, well, what can I do for myself, but how can this benefit others?
Totally.
Yeah, and it's lovely the way you were saying like the combination of everything, because there's not one cure-all. Like I thought yoga was going to fix my life. I thought yoga was just like the be all and end all, and it was for a little while, but then I was like, but I need something else. I need something else. And it'll just be like that through life, you know, because you'll be at different stages and different things where you'll need something else, or you might need to let go of that thing and try a different thing. So it's amazing how you've discovered all of this through your insomnia or your life challenge. But yeah, I know myself, if I've not slept well for a day or two, like how that impacts me. So I can't imagine like for somebody who suffers chronically with insomnia, how that affects them. Like, you know, it's a huge thing in life. And like that, when you Google it and there's no answers, only like, you know, the usual, like you listed, it's like, well, there has to be something else. So that's amazing that you started with the snacks. Yeah, and everybody loves snacks. Actually, I wanted to share with you a way that I used your snacks. I did a cacao ceremony online, but I didn't have cacao. I just had a cup of tea. So what I did, I had your bar before the cacao ceremony, because it was yin yoga and stuff like that. So you can't have a breakfast or a big meal. And I was so chilled. I was so chilled. So I was like,
so nice.
Just not at nighttime that you can have them. You could have them like before a yin yoga class, or, you know, if you needed to relax at any part of the day, you know, especially if you were on night shift or something like that, like,
totally,
you know,
and we're getting a huge amount of feedback. Actually, that's just that, Katie. It's like, you know, okay, if you're a little bit stressed through study, through work, they're a nice little kind of a, you know, take sort of whatever 10-15 minutes, bit of decompression, relax, chill, whatever. So we do describe them as the evening snack bar, but like you're able to use them whenever you want. Like,
absolutely. And I love that about it, because for the workshop that we had, it was like 3 to 6 p.m. and we had our break at like 4:30, and I was like, no, because the next part of our workshop is going to be very relaxed and restorative, so you can have your bar now. So some of them had it, and others like, no, I'm going to keep this for my cup of tea and my bedtime. So they were so excited. And
that's gorgeous.
Yeah,
thanks so
it was
much.
great.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, and I have to say the chocolate, dark chocolate and orange was my favorite.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, if you like dark chocolate, you're going to be slightly biased towards that one for sure.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So were you always into food, or was it just, you know, something that, you know, was the last kind of avenue for you, or how did the whole business side of it come apart or come?
Yeah, always into food, but like a foodie in a kind of a non-formal, an amateur foodie, I guess, you know.
Just a passion.
Yes, just very passionate about it.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, like I lived in Dublin up until, you know, the last year, and that's really what I spent all my time and my money on before baby, was going to different cafes, going to different restaurants, trying to recreate different, you know, food experiences that I had there and other places. So food, I don't know, I mean, like food, it's such a source of comfort, you know.
Absolutely.
So like when it comes to trying to create that sense of comfort in a very physical way for someone else, I think food has always been a vehicle for me to do that. So it was a really obvious thing for me to look at. Like the area I mentioned before that I worked in PR marketing, and most of the clients that I tended to work with were in the Irish food industry in particular. So it's always kind of been a part of what I have done in one form or another, you know, if not kind of explicitly, it's sort of there indirectly as well. So yeah, big foodie. And, you know, like, I guess from, you know, a health and wellness point of view, very into like trialing different things and experimenting with different like ingredients and food products, you know, some of them maybe a bit fattier than others. But I love just trying out different things and seeing if it has, you know, to be able to recognize the benefit that, you know, something has on you, on your performance and your feelings about yourself and everything like that. So yeah, I really do believe in the restorative powers of food. And that's why the ingredients in our bars, you know, like when we started making these bars, we were literally going into our health food shop and buying all of these ingredients. And do you know what I mean? Like experimenting with them. So everything that's listed in our bar is like food that you buy in a health food shop. And that was really important to us because, you know, yes, they, you know, like they have a certain calorie, they're about like 180 to 200 calories per bar, but like they're jam packed with oats and seeds and nuts and, you know what I mean? Like I like to think that they're full of good stuff. And that was definitely an important start off point for us from a foodie point of view.
Yeah, and I like the calories thing wouldn't matter for me, but for some people it is important. So the fact that it's under 200 calories is great because that's a regular snack. You know, if you have an apple and some peanuts or like peanut butter or something like that's going to be about 200 calories. So it's a normal kind of snack calorie, but it's so filling. Like it would definitely,
it is very fit. That's
the
past,
it would get you from one meal to another, or you know, if you were kind of peckish before bed, it's absolutely perfect.
Totally.
I'd be like you, I just need those pure ingredients. I don't like you know, added sweeteners and all of those kind of things that you can't pronounce. So that's what I really loved about your product as well.
It's interesting that you say that, Katie, because like when we were starting off, you know, like sugar is obviously a big bone of contention for a lot of people, and rightly so, because it, you know, it's not great, you know, the refined sugars and the added sugars. But originally when we were starting out, you know, the big, and like bear in mind that was maybe 3 years ago now, and like things change very quickly. But the, you know, like the sort of sugar is the devil was like, you know, anyone that we worked with, like, you have to reduce the sugar, you want a no added sugar bar. And most of the no added sugar products are just full of artificial sweeteners,
which are worse,
well, in my opinion, they're worse. You know, I'd way prefer to, like, okay, if you're going to have a bit of honest to goodness sugar, know what you're actually consuming.
Just have the pure sugar, like
have the pure sugar, but then in a moderate way, like, do you know what I mean? So like in moderation, like, but I prefer just that sort of knowing what it is, and like things with loads of X's and Y's and everything like that, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And not only like going on that journey of like creating something like this, but like starting your own business, because beforehand you worked for a company, was it?
No, I've been working for myself now about 10 years.
Oh, right, okay.
And so I started off, I co-founded a small communications agency with my, at the time, partner and now husband. And
congratulations.
we set up an agency that the idea was that we serviced clients who would have a very strong commitment to organic or ethical or sustainable principles. So we tended to work with a lot. That's why we ended up working with a lot of Irish food brands, because you know, there's nothing more sustainable really than locally produced and grown food. So
absolutely.
So we worked with, you know, like Irish craft beers and Irish dairies and Irish preserves and that kind of thing. So we set up that agency in about maybe 2012. So it's like, yeah, nearly 10 years in operation. And that's still ongoing. Like that's kind of in the background. And we still do a lot of that work because an awful lot of it is transferable. Do you know what I mean? Like a big challenge for us with Unwind is getting it out there and getting people to talk about it and try it and whatever. So that's sort of, we like to think that we're experts in that, but it's a big mountain to climb. But outside of that, so that was Sound Pure, that's one business. And then I was also involved in the founding of an Irish sustainable fashion label. And that ran kind of like, it was, I guess, running from about 2013 to 2017. And the name of the label was We Are Islanders. And the idea was that we were working with as much fabric and material that was produced in Ireland as possible. So linens and wools and salmon skin leather and that kind of thing. And we were also working with manufacturers in Ireland as well. So because there were very few fashion labels that are able to do that, like they tend to, you know, like sort of farm out their production, and they tend to like import like other materials and fabrics as well because it's cheaper to do all of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they're two, I guess they're all kind of connected in a way. Like there's a thread of maybe, you know, the sort of commitment to sustainability and commitment to trying to do things a little bit better, or to do things that take things that take a little bit longer or a bit more expensive, but because, you know, we hope that the quality is there. So yeah, I've been working for myself for 10 years.
Oh, very good. Very
so
good.
Yeah, it's not like, I mean, starting any new businesses is, you know, can be overwhelming, and it's sort of like it can be in equal parts terrifying and exhilarating, but I do have a little bit of background experience in it at this stage.
Yeah, but having that solid business well established, and then it's like, oh, let's start this new business. Like that must have been a big kind of like, should we, shouldn't we do it? You know, we're comfortable here if we do this, you know. So what was kind of the jumping point for you to say, let's give it a go?
Well, like a couple of things, to be honest. Like I think I'd always feel two areas that I have always been very interested in from a young age would have been fashion and food. So I suppose I think I'll be happy, like, you know, even if Unwind doesn't work. Like ultimately the fashion label didn't work for loads of different reasons, and it was a really, really gorgeous brand, and it was a really beautiful idea. And I think probably just a little bit ahead of its time. Like if it had been even now, like the appetite, the interest, the awareness and the knowledge of sustainability and fashion it's just way more mainstream.
Huge, you know? It's huge now, yeah.
Huge. But we just kind of probably hit the shelves with that just a little bit too early, to be honest. But I'm really proud that I can look back and say that I did it, you know, that like I tried, and, you know, it was really difficult, and, you know, when something comes to an end, it's also quite painful, you know, to reflect back on like all of the work and time and effort that you put into it. So I suppose like I can see both sides. I can see a company that works, and I have the experience of being involved with a company that's worked and a company that hasn't worked, and both have pros and cons, to be honest, like, you know. But from the Unwind side of things, it's kind of similar. Like I would have always wanted to set up my own food brand, and you know, I think I would have always had that sense of, oh, I wonder, you know, I bet if I did it, I would have done this, and I would have like created something really interesting and really nice, and I bet it would have worked. Whereas like if this doesn't work, at least I can say, well, I tried, you know, like I did actually try. So that was probably a part of it. Plus I just like doing things. I like creating things. Do you know what I mean? I do like seeing, you know, it's quite exhilarating for me to walk into a shop now and see our bars that we created from scratch. Like
it probably takes your breath away, or makes your heart skip a beat. It's like, wow, that I created that, I manifested that. Like,
yeah, it was very emotional. Like one of the first times I because of lockdown, I wasn't able to get into like we got into shops, and like people were texting me and sending me pictures and like, your bars are here, and I hadn't seen them anywhere.
Yes.
So the first time I actually saw them on shelf, I did actually take my breath away. I was like, wow, here they are, amazing, like they look great. I'm just so excited and so happy to see them. And then for people to respond positively to them, which, you know, has been the overwhelming reaction so far, is even better. Like it's just really, really lovely. And I think as well, like because we work, myself and my partner, because we work in PR and marketing, you're kind of ultimately working for someone else, even though it's our company. We're still like working to try and, you know, build a brand for other people. And I think just a part of me just wanted to do that for myself.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, to kind of like build something that was going to be, I mean, like ours, and like not, you know, the illusion of control and ownership, but like ours. And as much as I can say, we started it from scratch, we brought it to here, and, you know, we can be really proud of ourselves for doing that, like something that's quite tangible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a huge thing to do as well, especially since you've experienced like something not working out. And that's a huge part of being an entrepreneur or being a business owner. It's like not everything is going to work out.
And realistically, probably you're going to have more that don't work out than do work out. It's like the lotto, you know, setting up a business, and for it to kind of work seamlessly or, you know, without major hiccups, it's really, really hard.
Yeah, but you have to persevere. Like you have to take the chances, and you have to trust your gut, and you have to say like, at least I tried, because there's nothing worse than, you know, somebody else going forward with an idea that you had. You didn't give it a go. Like it's just
If so, like Katie, I suppose the thing is, like, you obviously have an entrepreneurial streak, you know, like you know what I mean, you're doing your own thing, like, but like not everyone has that itch that needs to be scratched.
No, definitely not. Like some people need the 9 to 5, some people need the security, some people you know, need to work for somebody else, and we need people like that, you know. Not everybody can be an entrepreneur, but like I can't do the 9 to 5. I can't beg for holidays or time off. Like I love the freedom of being an entrepreneur, and I love the spontaneity of it and the creativity of it. And I always wanted to work for myself, actually.
So you see, imagine putting you into a cubicle now and like locking the door on you until 5 o'clock in the evening, and you know, like obviously the pros are stability, security, you know how much money's coming in at the end of the month. Like you can go to your bank manager, you know, like very confidently when it comes to applying for a mortgage and all of these things, and it's great. Like the people who like sometimes when people say to me, oh, it's like I'd love to work for myself, and I would often be like, but would you? You know, like there's loads of terrible, like it's not, it is great, like there's loads of positives, but like just you as a person, would it suit your personality, this level of uncertainty, this level of risk, this level of, you know, lack of security maybe, you know. That's the thing about working for yourself. It's, if you're not able to sit with that level of kind of uncertainty or worry or fear or whatever, then it's definitely not for you.
No. And I don't think it's something that you can learn either. It's just something you have or you don't have. Like even the loneliness of setting up your own business. I know you have it with your partner as well, but like the two of you are going through two different things, you know, but within the same container. It's quite interesting. But like that, like you're alone in the sense of like, well, we have to do this ourselves because no one else is going to do it for us.
Yeah, it's very lonely to work for yourself. It totally is, because my partner is like, one of the reasons we are, you know, we have structured our lives the way we have is because he is a farmer. So like he set up, like say with Unwind, like, we do everything as a team, but at the same time, like he is actually working on the farm, like, and I'm actually working, you know, doing this. So support each other, there for each other. But yeah, I'm doing this on my own, he's doing that on his own. And it can be a very lonely place. And it's funny, like, because I read probably as everyone else did, Sally Rooney's new book, and her last chapter, it's a bit kind of no spoilers or anything, but like COVID and lockdown is referenced, and she talks, like one of the characters talk about like how, well, like I work for myself, so like lockdown hasn't really had that much of an impact on me because I'm working from home, I'm not going into the office. I thought that was really interesting, like, because, you know, for the people who are working for themselves, especially if it's like, you know, like from your laptop or whatever, it can be quite you can be quite isolated,
Yeah,
you are cut
absolutely.
off a little bit from society. So again, if you're not okay with that, like maybe it's not the right thing for you, like.
Yeah, and
Which is fine too. There's no, like, the thing about it is, like, you can't describe like positive or negative force or energy to like being an entrepreneur or not being an entrepreneur. Like, they just exist, like, neither one is better than the other. It's just like kind of figuring out
what you make of it.
Yeah, and figuring out what you are, and like, like accepting that and like kind of living that without any sense of regret or like, oh, I wish this was different or that was different. Just like kind of, I don't know, living with whatever it is you are, and living with it kind of comfortably.
Yeah, exactly. Because at the end of the day, you made the choice to do it, so it's like, well, make the most of it or go back to a 9 to 5, because you always have the option. Like if you do have this great idea, it's like, go for it. Like, what is the worst that can happen? Right? You lose a bit of money, it doesn't work out, tail between your legs, that kind of thing. Like, there'll always be other jobs, there'll always be opportunities. So it's really about just doing it, isn't it? And seeing what happens. Because I never thought like that I would have the type of business that I had when I decided to go full-time self-employed, so it's quite interesting, and it hasn't been easy, but it's certainly been worth it, and I'm sure you feel the same about yours.
It's totally the exact same. I can relate to you fully on that. Like, there's twists and turns that you don't expect, and but I think definitely twists and turns that were not expected, but like, it's gratifying. Like,
oh, absolutely. Like, in the majority of jobs, you get told what you didn't do. You don't get a pat on the back for what you did do, because you're supposed to do it anyway, but when you have a successful week or month or year, or like your launch goes really well or whatever, it's like, I did that, and you celebrate that. And like, if things don't go your way, I suppose it's just part of being self-employed, but I, same as you, I find it so gratifying and very, very rewarding every day.
And that's a lovely place to be, like, you're lucky.
Yeah. So like, I love the whole brand that you've created around Unwind. Like, it's not just a bar, but like, you have the YouTube channel with different tools and techniques for sleep and things like that. So I think that's great, because once again, you pinpointed what you were missing when you were suffering with insomnia and looking for something. So you've created you fill that gap, basically. So what do you feel is next for Unwind, if you're allowed to share, or what's your vision for the future?
Well, in a kind of a practical, physical level, I'd love to do, like, at the minute we're doing the boxes of the single snacks. I'd love to do multi-packs, because I think a lot of people tend to buy, like, snacks for the week in, if you want to call it, your big grocery shop or something like that. So I really want to do that. I also want to work on vegan and gluten-free options.
Oh yes, that's
huge. In the range. And I think maybe some different flavor profiles as well. So I'm experimenting with a couple of different ingredients and a couple of different flavors that might work quite well for that time of night. Like, at the minute, we're available in most health food shops and sort of premium independent food stores. So I suppose so that in like Republic of Ireland, and we're just about to launch into the Northern Irish market.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting for us. And obviously, like, there's a lot of uncertainty with Brexit and everything else, but we'd be really hopeful to launch into Great Britain and potentially Scandinavian markets next year.
Wow, that's huge. And like, you only launched this year, so that's amazing.
Well, listen, I don't really, like, we're seeing as we go.
Yes.
We're not going to set a date in stone and like stick to that. The thing about it is, maybe it won't make sense for us in 6 months' time, like, to reflect on everything and say, look, let's just continue to build here domestically, before let's sort of walk before we can run, and that sort of idea. But that is definitely, I think, where we would work quite well, because we're probably not going to be going into supermarkets, so we have to be looking at the sort of health and wellness markets outside of the Republic, basically.
Yeah, that's great, because you have to have a focus, you know, you really, really have to have a focus. And like that, you're so lucky that everything is Irish and Irish made, because you don't have that worry of like, oh, what if, you know, the charges of coming in or whatever, like all of that stopping you. So it's great that you did it all in-house and within the country.
There were a couple of ingredients, Katie, because like obviously the ingredients that we're working with, like some of the functional ingredients, like you know, L-theanine, which is an amino acid extract from green tea, and it helps to enhance feelings of calm and focus, and Montmorency cherry, which is a type of tart cherry, which is linked to an increased production in the sleepy hormone melatonin. You know, these are not things that you can get that are grown in Ireland. So everything that we can get in Ireland, we get in Ireland. But for some of the functional ingredients that, you know, we just don't have in Ireland, we are importing some of them. So, you know, we've had to shift suppliers. We've had to, you know, kind of, it hasn't been completely hassle-free, like Brexit and even like the whole the blockage at the Suez Canal, you know, like all of these things have a knock-on effect, a rippling effect, and they sort of impact, you know, like how long it will take us to get our delivery of whatever it is we're waiting for. But no, I mean, keeping things produced in Ireland, packaged in Ireland and everything like that as much as we can, definitely does help. And, you know, like I do think that we've worked really, really hard as a country to achieve this sort of like I suppose association with good quality food, you know, like wherever you go in the world, like people do tend to associate Ireland with something that's like, you know, good quality, high quality, you know what I mean? So that's something that we benefit from as well. We do get a really, really good response to the fact that we are an Irish produced, an Irish dreamed, produced, packaged, everything brand. So yeah, that has been definitely positive for us, and it just means you can keep a little bit more control over what's happening too, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I would definitely prefer to eat something that is like made in Ireland rather than made in China and like brought here and then an Irish stamp put on it. Like there's so much, like I know that bar I've just ate has been made up the road. You know, that kind of way. Like
I know. See, I will be the same too. Like, and yeah, like some people do care, some people don't care, but like we're making for the people who do care.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that proud to be Irish stamp all over it. Like, so I love that. And so what do you think for anybody that's listening that, you know, is considering becoming self-employed or on the fence of like birthing this new idea that they have? Like, what would you say are the pros and the cons of, you know, going for
it? Well, the pros are you're your own boss, you set your hours and you have complete autonomy. And then the cons are you're your own boss and you set your own hours and you have complete autonomy. So like for every single positive you can find, you know, in working for yourself, there's a diametrically opposed opposition or whatever. So yeah, I think that that's the truth. Like the pros and the cons, they exist and they're just different sides of the same coin. So then it really comes down to, you know, what's important to you. Like if you're a person who likes autonomy in the workplace, then it's going to work for you. Then it's a pro. If you're a person that you need someone to be able to sort of, you know, like set goals for you, external goals and whatever, so that will be a negative for you, basically, is what I'm saying. So it does come down to the personality. I mean, like when I went back to work in Unwind, to start up Unwind, I had I was maybe like seven years into working for myself. When I decided to set up Unwind, I said, right, I'm actually going to go back and do the things that I wish I had done when I started for myself originally. So the first thing I actually did was like I signed up to a local enterprise office start your own business course, which kind of seemed a bit crazy because I was sitting there in this evening course with a load of people who were like thinking about going to work for themselves. Whereas I was working for myself, you know, I was kind of a veteran almost at that stage, like I was doing it 7 years at that point. And obviously like still quite young, you know, like, so I was probably younger than most people in the room, and I had been working for myself longer. But it was like, it was a 5-week course, 2 nights a week. So maybe I think the guts of sort of like, maybe I think the course was like 2 or 3 hours a weeknight. So like maybe 6 hours a week for 5 weeks or something like that. And it was just brilliant. Like it was absolutely brilliant. And the first week was all about looking at who you are as a person and if being self-employed suits you. And they were really, really obvious things that I just never considered. Like one point that the moderator of the course brought up, he was like, you know, do you get sick often? Like if you get sick often, like if you're a person who's inclined towards like being out sick, working for yourself may not be the right thing for you, because, you know, you might actually need more sick leave than someone who doesn't tend to get sick. And I never really thought about that. And I just thought, like, you know, what a great question to ask yourself before starting off on this journey. Like, so it cost about €50, and it was €50 really and truly well worth spending. If you're going to decide, okay, I might leave my job, I'm going to completely, you know, upend everything and, you know, introduce a lot of upheaval into my life. But I think that €50 is a great place to start. And then, like, as a sort of an add-on to that, I tapped into this is again for Unwind, not for like the first company that I did. I tapped into every source of mentoring, networking, and funding and supports that were available. So like the Leo is a really good place to start, your local Leo, Enterprise Ireland. If you are like based outside of Dublin, so say you're in the country, Acorns. Are you familiar with Acorns?
No, I never heard of Acorns. No.
Yeah, it's specifically for women in rural areas. So it's trying to it's a network of self-employed women or entrepreneurial women based outside of Dublin, more or less. Like, and, you know, again, it's tapping into a group of women who are in a similar situation, maybe like totally different fields and areas, but like are trying to build something. And, you know, you meet up once a month and they do like lovely big kind of events, and they're promoting all of the women that are part of the network as well. So Acorns, Leo, Enterprise Ireland, BIC, all of those things, I'd really, really recommend doing it. Talk to people who have already done it, you know, whether that's people who have just set up on their own and they're working for themselves, or in your field specifically and can mentor you. I think asking people to be a mentor to you, to your business, is a really powerful thing, because like most people will say yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor to be asked.
It is an honor. Really, you know, like it's a lovely thing for someone to say to you, like, will you help me? Like, will you, like, I really value your experience, or I really think you know, your professional journey has been interesting, and I'd love to sort of benefit from that. Like, I'd say there are very few, like, I mean, obviously time constraints might be an issue, but like asking someone for mentoring, help, or guidance, and even if it's only like, okay, can we just maybe have a phone call for half an hour twice a year, like that's huge. Like, it's huge. So the mentors that we have connected with have been really, really helpful. So that's what I would be saying to people who are thinking about doing it, is definitely do a little bit of research. You know, like there's a lot to, like, I as I was saying to you, like I specialize in the area of consumer psychology. So like I probably like maybe was able to strengthen my areas of like market research and that kind of thing. Like, but anybody can set up a survey on Google Forms and send it out on their WhatsApp groups. Like if you have a fantastic idea, you know, to set up a cacao ceremony meditation center, you fill out a form on Google survey. It takes about, I'd say, 5 minutes. It's even easier to do than MailChimp, to be honest. And you create a link, you send it to every WhatsApp group that's on your phone. You say, would you mind spending 5 minutes filling this out? Because I'm trying to figure out if this idea that I have has legs and if it might go somewhere. And if you get 100 people or whatever, you know, to feedback to you in your survey, like that might tell you very, very quickly whether your idea is going to go anywhere or not, you know? Absolutely. So all of those things, I think the research, the mentoring, the supports are really, really helpful, and they can't be overlooked. And anyone anyone who can kind of give you their like the gift of their own life experience and their own failures, like to tell you like, this is, I did this and it didn't work, this is why it didn't work, like that's a real gift, and I'd never discounted. But in saying all of that, you still have to go with your gut.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Because some people say don't do it.
Yeah, especially your family and friends, the ones that care about you most. Yeah. They're like, you're mad, what are you doing? You're leaving a good job, blah, 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 blah. It's like, look, yeah, absolutely. That's such good advice. And especially about the local enterprise. I did SkillNet, and
okay, brilliant.
At the time I was just like, oh, but when I look back now, because it is tough going, like it is, especially for someone that doesn't like to sit in for hours on a day and doesn't like doing homework or doesn't like bookkeeping or anything like that. I'm so practical. I like to physically do things. I just hate books and looking at things, but like that for me in terms of tax, you know, how to keep books and receipts, what you need to be doing, because as an entrepreneur, as being self-employed, like you have to wear all the hats. You have to be the bookkeeper, you have to be the marketer, you have to be the promoter, you have to do everything until you start making enough money that you can get someone who enjoys doing that to do it, because you have to do everything yourself. So SkillNet was great in that retrospect. And then, you know, you're around like-minded people who are all encouraging each other. And like you, I spoke to so many people that were business owners and that were way ahead of me in terms of where I wanted to go. But like that, I asked everybody, you know, I was like, what are you doing? You know, what should I do? And like, they were so helpful, you know, and I am repaying that now. Like if someone messaged me on Instagram or Facebook or the internet or whatever, like, can you give me some advice? Where do I start? I'm like, okay, this is what you need to do. Okay, this is what I did and I didn't do. And they're like, thank you so much. And like, that could be the breaking point for somebody to just get going, you know, and you're like, yes, go, because we need more cheerleaders. We need to support each other more, because you can't rob someone else's idea because they're not going to do it the way you do it, because it's very individual. Like it's like your fingerprint, like what I do you can't do, and vice versa, because it's coming from a different place, a different energy. So yeah, I think we should definitely all help each other out.
And I think more like it's just on like, maybe it's not a popular thing for me to say, but like it just can be a little bit harder for women in business, like you know.
Absolutely.
And I think like having like, and especially since becoming a mom, like, you know, I just see how my time is sort of like, it doesn't even really feel like it's mine anymore, because you've time that needs to go, like so much time needs to go into the baby and everything like that. So I do think that like when it comes to, I'll help anyone, like if anyone came to me, but like particularly when it's a woman, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I just feel that my generosity like just skyrockets them. You know, you just want them to do well, like, you know, you really, really do. And I remember seeing some, like, I don't know, it was like maybe an Instagram quotey posty kind of a thing, but it was something to the effect of like, you know, there's an infinite amount of success out there. Like, you know, me succeeding, you succeeding isn't taking from my potential of success and vice versa. Like, so we don't have, like, there isn't this finite supply that, you know, is being kind of like handed out to people. Like, so it exists for everyone. Like, I think like, I don't know, maybe having that sense of generosity towards people is really, really important, because you're kind of paying it forward as well.
You are.
When you're creating that like good, positive energy. And, you know, like sometimes it can be hard to see people, like when you're working really, really hard and you see people who are maybe like doing something that, you know, you would really like to be doing, or that you like, that you feel they're at a place that you would like to get to, but like being churlish about it and like kind of, I don't know, like pulling in everything around you isn't the way to get there.
No,
you know, you just have to kind of be open and generous and like, you know, helpful.
Yeah, and you don't know, you know, what they went through to get where they are either. Like they could be way worse off than you, or they could have had way more challenges than you. So like, you know, congratulate them and ask them like, what are you doing? Like, can you give me like bit of advice or a bit of insight? You know, I think you're fantastic, I really admire you, blah 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 blah. Like, it's just, it really is an honor when somebody recognizes your success and you're like, yes, let me help you, let me do whatever I can for you. And you know,
I totally agree. I think it's a lovely kind of, and then it sort of feeds into the rest of your life.
Oh,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like that's a great positive mindset to have, family, friends, like in your kind of outside of working life.
And
Incredibly
when you
cool.
say outside of working life, when you're self-employed, I don't think there's anything outside of it. That's the question I get asked most from my friends. It's like, you work every day. It's like, yeah, because I love
know.
it. I was like, there's not a single moment in the day that doesn't pass by. Like, I can use that. What may I do that? When, oh, I have to do this as well. But like, when you're so passionate about something, like it's not taxing, you know, as long as you're looking after yourself, because you're just so, you just love it so much, and you have to love it, because otherwise it just becomes a job.
Totally. Like, I actually think this is kind of like maybe in real time a good example of that like mentality. But I remember a couple of years ago, myself and my partner were in the pub meeting friends, and one of the guys said to me, he was I can't remember, he was just, we were just chatting about like being out and like being out for drinks or whatever, and I said something like, what day is it? And he was like, oh, it's very easy to know that you work for yourself because it's Friday, I have a bank holiday weekend, you know. So he was like I'm very aware of that, because like I'm not going back to work now for whatever 4 days or 3 days. But like when you're self-employed, bank holiday Monday doesn't really make any difference, because you're going to be probably just
today you work the hardest.
Yeah, exactly, because it's quieter.
Yeah. Oh, it's so funny. But yet you can have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off if you choose, or
Well, that's it, like
you can go off to a spa on a Monday and have a bank holiday every Monday, or you know, you really can do whatever you like, which is dangerous sometimes, but quite exciting other times as well.
Yeah, the opportunities are endless.
Absolutely. So Deirdre, do you have any else thing you would like to say before we wrap it up for today?
Well, first of all, it was really nice to talk to you, Katie. Thanks. Lovely to chat to another woman who's, you know, in kind of similar, self-employed, and obviously, like, same as yourself, I'm interested in self-care and mindfulness and meditation and yoga. The only last little plug I'd like to give is to let your listeners know that look for the Unwind bars in your local health food shop or premium food store, and check us out online and on our social media channels, because we do post some really lovely meditations and bedtime stories for grown-ups and nice sleepy stretchy yoga sequences, and they're all completely original pieces as well. So yeah, check us out.
Brilliant. And I will link everything below this as well, so they can find you easily.
Cool.
But we're so excited to give the last of the bars away this weekend, so I'm sure that everybody knows where they're going. There's no chocolate and orange left, unfortunately.
I'll have to get you another box. Don't worry, I'll get another box.
They'll have to order them online. I highly recommend. But yeah, Deirdre, it's been so lovely to chat with you, and I wish you all the best in your business, and I'm sure we will be in contact again in the future.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Katie.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Bye bye.